Hi, this is Mrs. Dykstra. Today, I'm going to read to you the book titled Spring is Here, written by Sean Taylor. Did you know that spring is finally here? The first day of spring was last Thursday, March 19th. This book is about the signs of spring in different outdoor settings, such as a garden, pond, and mountains. But before I begin to read you this book, I want you to take a moment and think of this question. How can you tell spring is here? What kinds of things do you notice when you go outdoors? What are some of the signs that let you know it is spring? As I'm sitting here in my office, I can hear rain falling on my roof and birds chirping outside my window. I've noticed a lot of robins flying around my neighborhood. It definitely feels warmer outside too. And just like the picture on the cover of our book, I have noticed some flowers coming up in my yard. Did you have some of the same ideas I did? Great. Let's begin. This is the title page. It has the title, Spring is Here, and the author, written by Sean Taylor. Take a moment and look at the picture. Do you know what kind of plant this is? Maybe you have seen it in your yard. Did you say a dandelion? Great. It is a dandelion. Of course, your grown-up might call it a weed. They don't like seeing them in their yard, but it is certainly a sign of spring. The next page has our table of contents. The table of contents gives us an overview of what we will learn about in the book. It has the section titles, and following the section titles is a number. The number tells us which page the section begins. The warmer days of spring, the garden, the woods, the mountains, the meadow, the pond, and the glossary. The glossary is just like a dictionary, and you find it in the back of the book. The glossary lists important words that have to do with our topic, and it tells us what those words mean. I will show you that when we get towards the back of our book. Before we begin reading, also I want to teach you about a comprehension skill called summarize. One way readers can understand and remember new information in a nonfiction book is to review in their mind or summarize what they have read. Good readers often summarize by commenting to themselves about the information or restating the information in their own words. After I read the first section, The Warmer Days of Spring, I'm going to summarize the important information. Here's the first section. We call this the heading. I put an arrow there so you can see the warmer days of spring. The heading is the main idea of this section. Remember how the sun feels on the first warm day of spring. In spring, each day grows longer and warmer. The plants and animals feel it grow warmer too. In this section, I'm going to summarize now. This section told us about how the days get longer and warmer. The garden. The flowers send up shoots from round white bulbs. Soon the garden will be filled with color. Did you notice that some of those words were big? Look at that, shoots and bulbs. Those are called bold print words, and you can usually find those words in the glossary, and they tell you what they mean. For instance, shoots are kind of like new stems. that are coming up from the ground. And bulbs are the part of the plant that's under the ground that is used to store the food. This looks like a crocus plant. The robins are back at work. They collect brown grass for a nest. Soon they will feed wiggly worms to hungry babies. That is the end of our section. I want you to take a moment and think about what was the most important thing you read in this section. Were you able to summarize the section, the garden? The main idea of this section is that flowers are starting to come up in our gardens and robins are busy feeding their baby birds. The woods. The trees are growing again. The fat buds on a tree grow into big, flat leaves. Caterpillars nibble on them. The cricket comes out from underground. It rubs its wings to make the sound. Chirp, chirp. Take a moment and summarize this section of the book. The main idea of this section is that the trees are growing and the caterpillars are busy eating the buds and crickets are coming out of the ground. The mountains. In the mountains, snow melts away. Streams fill with water. The bear comes out from her underground den. She is hungry. I would like you to summarize this section of the book. The main idea of this section is when snow on the mountains melts in spring, the water begins to fill rivers and streams, and bears come out of hibernation ready to eat. The meadow. A baby deer drinks its mother's milk. Soon it will eat soft spring grass. Gophers kick up piles of brown soil. They nibble on dandelion leaves. Take a moment now and think about the main idea of this section. I'd like you to summarize. The main idea in the section, the meadow, is about baby animals like a deer eating the fresh grass that's coming up, and gophers that are nibbling on some of those weeds. The pond. It's also warmer at the pond. The turtles lie on a log in the sun. A water lily's flat round leaf lies on top of the water. A frog sits on the leaf and makes a sound. Ribbit, ribbit. Spring is here. Think about what was the important or the main idea in that section. I'd like you to summarize it. The last page in our book is the glossary. Remember, the glossary is like a mini dictionary in the back of the book. It lists some of those bold print words that we came across while we were reading. It tells us what those words mean. The words are in alphabetical order. That means buds, which begins with B, comes before W in wiggly. It tells us, for example, that the word buds means leaves or flowers that have not yet opened. And it tells us which page we will see that word, page 8. Bulbs, underground parts of some plants that are used to store food. Dandelion, a common wild plant with yellow flowers. Gophers, rodents that dig and have large cheek pouches. Shoots, new stems or branches. Water lily, any of a group of water plants whose leaves and flowers float on the water. Wiggly, moving quickly back and forth. I want you to take a moment and just think about, how did summarizing help you understand this book? I would like you to try using this skill, summarizing, as you read a book with your grown-up this week. Before we end, I want to ask you a question. Do you think this book is fiction or nonfiction, and how do you know? Did you say nonfiction? Fantastic. You would be right. This is a nonfiction book. Some of the clues that let me know it's nonfiction is that it had real facts, information about something real. It also had photographs, a table of contents, and a glossary. All of those things let me know that this book was nonfiction. Now you will download the worksheet titled In Spring, and you will write about changes you notice in spring.